Fran here from Cape Cacao. I'm going to be talking to Jojo from Cacao Source about all things ceremonial grade cacao. We're going to touch on the cacao crisis, and we're also going to be just sharing a little bit about our own. When I was on my own cacao pilgrimage in Guatemala, so now we have an 8-hour time difference now that I'm back in South Africa. So it's been a bit of a challenge, but quite fun trying to overlap. For those of you who have been waiting for this live, we have been trying this for almost 2 weeks. So let's just wait for him to hop on here, and hello everybody joining us. Thank you if you've just rejoined. This is the third attempt today. There we go. Hi Jojo. All right, let's see. Accept. This should work now. We tried this last night just as a trial run, and all was fine. And we met with a little bit of a challenge now, but please Instagram, work for us. All we want to do is have a chat about cacao. All right, so Jojo, I've hit the accept button. If you're joining live, hello. If you're getting the recording, hi. Just trying to get Jojo on so we can have a chat about cacao. Okay, I see the request. I am accepting it, and nothing is happening. So you've turned on your video. It says, there we go. Jojo, can you hear me now?
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, I can hear you. I can see myself.
Yeah.
I can't see you.
Okay.
But I think it's fine.
This is probably the best.
Not too bad. I will imagine. Yeah.
I can imagine a beautiful face.
I will.
All right.
Pity, though.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining. I see San Pedro Volcan in the background there. So you're coming to us live from Lake Atitlan in Guatemala.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Fran, for inviting me. It's an honor to be here sharing with you.
Likewise.
And yes, I am here. I just moved in my friend's little cabin. I'm really happy. Look at this.
Wow. Not just one volcano, 3. Amazing.
Yes.
So for those who haven't traveled to Guatemala, this is pretty much the view and the scenery in the higher altitude areas. But Jojo, as I understand, the cacao grows in the lower altitude areas. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. From sea level to about 800 to 1,000. But now with temperatures changing, humidity levels are changing as well in different regions. People are experimenting planting cacao in higher altitudes. And we're following up on this. But yeah, usually 800 maximum for temperatures, I guess pressure, and many different like climate ecosystemic considerations. Cacao doesn't. It grows here, but it won't give many fruits.
Yeah.
If it gives at all.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's jump right into the main chunk of our conversation, which is around the climate crisis. And then afterwards, I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey into working with cacao and co-founding Cacao Source. So at the moment, those who have been following Cape Cacao and Cacao Source will know that there is a global cacao crisis happening at the moment. We're going to talk specifically about what's happening in Guatemala. So over to you, Jojo.
Yeah, in Guatemala, there is right now a big shortage of seeds provision. Farmers are experimenting drought. So this year it's happening with a huge shortage in rainfall. There has been a very large amount of wildfires that have been going on, for some of them for several months, and destroying big regions of a small country. And then there are mud floods that are also going on. So it's been the harvest, the yields have been gradually going down in the last years, but this year we're really experimenting a low. So we're all praying and looking at the sky every day and connecting on a very regular basis with farmers from all around the country to monitor the situation in different regions. We just had a big heat wave in all the east of the country. In the west, there is a shortage of rain, Temperatures are not too bad, but as an average for now, the 8 farming communities that we work with are experimenting as an average about 40% of what they should be harvesting in terms of quantity. Some of them it's much worse. Some of them it's 20%. Of course, always it's the smallest farmers are and the most exposed and are always the most in difficulty. And so, yeah, this is the context we are in.
Yeah. Thanks for contextualizing that for us. Has the quality of the actual cacao, even though there's less of it, has the quality been affected?
No, not that we have witnessed. For the beans that are harvested, they're great. They're good.
Yeah, that's so good. Cool. So what this means then is that there's just going to be a higher price. Have you started putting your prices up already?
Yeah, we just rose our price on the 13th. It's been also part of the challenge for us is to calculate, to project into trying to juggle in between keeping the cacao as accessible as we can for the wider amount of people, but also really offering the farmers support and a fair price, considering the context, but also considering cacao economy. From the beginning, as you know, one of our most important vision has been this work with the farmers and with the chocolate world in general, and with the emerging ceremonial world. One of our biggest tasks and missions has been to ask, okay, how much are we paying the farmers? Or not even how much are we paying, but what percentage of the revenue or of the profit of this cacao goes back to the farmer, and what does the farming work, how much the farming work represents in all the work of creating and sharing these beautiful cacaos. And right now, this question, this year, is more important than ever, and it doesn't only concern price focus, it's also about the relationship with the forests and with the soil and with the culture of farming in general. That is completely, in my experience and opinion, that is going through a major revolution worldwide. For many reasons. I think we see extremely preoccupying and concerning phenomenons, but at the same time, I don't want to not mention how much hope is being weaving, how much hope we're weaving. Also, there are several currents, there are several movements happening with regenerative farming, with awareness, awareness in this country. Is striking to see awareness in isolated regions, the type of awareness that you get when you're connected to internet and you get immediate information from other countries in the world. And this potential for awareness, this renewal of ideas, of norms, of ways of saying things and working are also having a magnificent impact in many ways. So we're observing the two phenomena at the same time, and I mean maybe two sides of a similar context. And here it's striking in Guatemala. I think it's a specific country. It's a country that has a lot to go or a lot to do still in terms of reforestation, in terms of regenerative farming, in terms of social justice. There's a lot to do still. Guatemala has been highly affected. It's a very specific country. It's the country of the Mayans. Very specific history and trajectories in many economical trajectories in many ways. So it's no surprise right now we're one of the countries the most affected in the cacao world by climate change. But it's also no surprise within the Mayan world that it's also the country with the most change, one of the countries with the most change going on, but it's very underground. It's still emerging.
Yeah. as you're speaking, the word that comes to me is that, like, the opportunity for revolution, actually, and rewriting a narrative. I'm just going to take this into the global context and the industrial space as well, with cocoa and chocolate, and how this might become not really affordable for so many people. So we're almost forced to go back to looking at the origins of cacao and how it's always been used. And then those that actually can afford it or really want to go and source out and seek out cacao now, and not just chocolate. It's kind of an opportunity for us to go back to working in a sacred way with cacao and the land and relationships, like you say. So I think the opportunity for revolution is just so much more present during this crisis now. You know, there's lots of ways we can go with it, and hope, like you say, hope.
Absolutely. When I say revolution, I'm not meaning a political movement that is violent and I'm not saying it in a political way, more in a philosophical point of perspective. That means a revolution. It's like we went through a circle, and now we're back to the beginning of circle. We're at the beginning of a whole new spectrum, a whole new set of phenomena that are articulating. And as you say, there's a lot of hope, and they come with change. There are a lot of changes also coming, whether it is for the farmers here of cacao and all over the world, but also for people that love chocolate and eat chocolate. And for our relation, well, I think you mentioned something really interesting, is our relationship with accessibility for goods, our relationship with commodity, or just our relationship with food, and how we can get it is due to change. It's already changing. It's experiencing a revolution, and it has to. And oftentimes, I think it's portrayed in, at least in France, I've been witnessing a lot of this shortage idea, or this mentality of how do you say in English, like the capacity to buy, like the level of life, they call it. Level of life basically being your capacity to buy a maximum of product or not. And we at Cacao Source, and I think the ceremonial cacao is rooted into a perspective of try to shift this shortage mentality, or this very consumer mentality of saying, like, we want to access the maximum of goods at the cheapest price at all times everywhere in the world, which is quite utopian or impossible on the long term. And we try to bring the idea of value in treasures of nature, and maybe do more with less, maybe have less, but give it its value back, give it its importance and its preciousness. And once we give it its preciousness, we can feel it. And when we feel how precious something is, we don't take it for granted, we don't abuse it, we don't just like absorb it without any awareness. Then we actually might feel, I feel more abundant when I think like this. I have less, but I value more. And
we touched on this when we had a chat when I was in Guatemala around scarcity mentality, which is so much of how our world is. Hi. Can you still hear me?
So sorry, I received a call. Please, friends, connect to Cacao Source direct and stop calling me.
You're back. You're back. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you on the phone. I'm gonna reconnect my headset.
All right.
But yeah, I can hear you. You can. Meanwhile, go on.
Yeah. So when I was in Guatemala and we had a bit of a chat the one day, we touched on an interesting psychological, I suppose, conditioning that a lot of us have. I mean, I can speak for myself as well, until I started looking at that part of me of lack, and how it's always around, trying to get the cheapest, the most for the cheapest price, no matter what it is. And it's to address that. Yes. It's to address that psychological conditioning, and to rather go, hold on, if I'm always trying to get the cheapest, or the most for the cheapest, there's going to be some impact down the line, and often that's at the grassroots level. So there is also this like inner awareness that we need to start to obviously have the educational, these conversations and the awareness around, oh, maybe I also can look at that for myself, and then start to do that contemplation and just reflect on that. And that comes directly into what you were saying of, then you start to rather go for the quality and the value of something. And nowadays, we do vote with our money, and I would rather put my money, now that I understand all of this, and I value the ceremonial cacao so much because of the relationship with land and people, and supporting small scale farming and just that the whole people piece. It's so important in relationships. I vote with my money by rather paying extra for something that I know is with integrity. But I did need to look at that for a few years. I needed to address that psychological conditioning and start to rewire that within myself. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up. We vote with our money, especially if we come from a northern economy. I think it's such an interesting and empowering topic. When I had the opportunity to be in nature for years and be really having a lifestyle of, I think I mentioned it to you, I was traveling with a horse caravan and doing circus and living in the wild the whole time, no screen, super disconnected. When I came back to civilization, or like to being plugged into the internet and, receiving a little bit of the news from France, from Europe, from the States, I got interested a little bit in this topic, and I realized it's all over the place. I'm sure there are super interesting media review on that topic, and it's not surprising that it's all over the place. There is, in French, the formula got back to me. It's called le pouvoir d'achat, the power of buying, and they hammer. It's hammered. I was on my father's watching TV. It's almost on the daily basis. Power of buying, power of buying, power of buying, and it's completely assimilated norm that what you want, what we all want, is to have the power of buying. This is our interest, that we can get the most at the cheapest. And it's no surprise that this notion, this norm is so hammered, because it highly benefits to the industrials, to corporations, to huge enterprise, global enterprise that have enormous power, and that have a power that grows every day more and more, and that their only argument is to supply cheap products to the largest amount of people, so that they can continue extract it. And it's a very efficient way to do. I don't want to get lost into that topic. I think there's a lot of historical, socioeconomic considerations that are really interesting. I just want to focus on its consequence nowadays, is that it's really, sometimes it's very assimilated. It's like a norm. We don't even have to talk about it. It's already there in the conversation. The cheaper, the better. And it's a great opportunity, has been a great opportunity for me to ask, okay, so for example, do I want cheap sugar? Yeah, sugar is amazing. Sugar, I can caramelize stuff with it. I can do amazing things. Sure, if I focus in myself and what I can do, it's amazing. And the cheaper, the better. Then I can get more, and then I can get other stuff on top of it. I can get apples, and then I caramelize them. But then let's consider where sugar comes from and what does it do. And then I've been living there, and now I'm facing the reality, the how do you say, the background, the behind the curtains reality of sugar. And it's striking misery, violent, huge deforestation on a massive scale, on like hours of highway, and you see you should see jungle here. And when you see jungle, let me tell you, for the ones, I'm sure most of you have experienced a jungle. When you have a jungle in your face, you see it, you can know. And when it's not there, also it's very striking, right? And okay, so then the question changed and became, okay, do I want to participate in that? Do I want to give my vote, my money to that, to support that? And no. And then I became a fanatic of honey, and I'm so glad So yes, maybe I get less sweetener life in quantity, but it was a movement of appreciation for honey, and honey, you know, nowadays like supporting bees and beekeepers is a great idea because they're disappearing and they have a major importance in our ecosystems, in our way of life. And anyway, two things happened for me. I saw how much this norm of power of buying, of cheapness and industrial is good for the people is reinforced, and how actually the height at which it doesn't help. It doesn't help farmers. It doesn't help all the workers of this industrial chain of supply that are horrible. Of course, it has terrible ecological consequences that we are already paying. We're starting to pay. It doesn't benefit that much. Usually, when you look also at the consumer market, consumers are not maybe are starting more and more to question this consumer lifestyle of getting the most material, the most at the cheapest, because it's so rotten in the inside that it promotes products and lifestyle that are completely toxic and destructive. Like, you know, of course, the addiction to sugar, so many addictions, and this mentality of being not disconnected, but being pushed away, literally pushed away and put a wall in between us and our foods, and when it comes from us and the farmers that work with us for us to be nourished. And those are very fundamental questions, and it's beautiful how, thanks to communication tools, thanks to our timeline, we can now really see the opportunity to reconnect and to reappreciate. And maybe reduce, but when we reduce and then we reappreciate, it feels so good. And seeing very slowly, for myself, it's been really slow how I had lifestyle changes. You know, I stopped flying all the time. I changed my diet. I changed where I live, my way of living, my perspectives, my ideas of success, etc., etc. And it's really slow because conditioning is deep. And I've had to have so much compassion for everybody, for me, my friends, my surrounding, the people, my family, even everything. Like, try to deal with all the compassion, all the hope, to not let the anger and the frustration come in when I witness the disasters, when sometimes I witness the disconnection, and when I witness in TV this continuous infusing of norms of conditioning, this conditioning of consumer market. And it's really it's been a gift.
And I mean, that's why we keep working with cacao as the medicine for assisting that compassion, because we need it. We need so much compassion nowadays. Jojo, I love how you were talking about the specific timeline and having just such incredible communication tools at our fingertips. And the word again, revolution, comes back here of, ironically, it's largely because of technology, or the technological kind of spike that we find ourselves in, a bit of a situation at the moment with the climate crisis and so many other things with industry. But on the flip of that, we have access to much more transparency and education. So because of our timeline, we can educate ourselves, and it's almost like we don't have an excuse nowadays to not know. You know, ignorance used to be, you know, maybe something we could have used as an excuse. We didn't know, but we can educate ourselves really easily nowadays, and we can just go do a quick Google search. And this leads me into just kind of deterring or taking our conversation just a little bit off the line of the crisis at the moment, because I know there is so much that we can carry on talking about here, but I also want to bring it into how people can start to practically implement these small changes. And working with cacao, of course, choosing our cacao, voting with our money in the sense of taking the power out of what we can get for the cheapest and how much we can get for that, and rather going for value. And and educating ourselves to the story of maybe where we source our cacao from. And I mean, I love the name Cacao Source. It speaks directly to that. But linking into that, maybe you could just speak a little bit about how Cacao Source actually became a brand and a business. And maybe along the lines of also how people can start to take action into better choices.
Yes, thank you. I love your questions. They're really interesting. You know, I see that there are, it's important to know the reasons why. There's a lot of information, as you say, information is circulating so fast and so fluidly nowadays. There's like almost too much. We get it from every direction. And it's like, as you said, there is no excuse to not be informed, etc. This is a really good question. I feel now in a position where I really want to focus into the action, because the knowing, I feel like it's very much there. There's more, as you say, like especially in the northern economies. There's the information circulates, and before you were mentioning like mechanisms of how to change our life, mechanisms of change. Like, is it from the knowing, or is it from something else? And I want to bring something here that it's been in my mind a lot. And for me, it's really whatever the mechanism. If it's from experience, if it's from like transformative, if maybe sometimes I've seen how people hit a low in their life and a sort of internal, external explosion, and it creates space for them to reopen to different forms of themselves, different life paths, different understandings. And from there, from that low, they can reemerge and integrate aspects of their own ethics that they were not able to integrate before because they were already on the dynamic, on an inertia. And so for me, because I'm quite mental. I get, I love information and I love researching and trying to get to see every aspect of everything. And it can be very spiraling sometimes. I've had years of getting lost into ecological crisis, many aspects, many voices. And now I'm more and more fascinated by, the modes of action, the diversity of tactics, the continuous compassion and support we can weave and to create a web of change makers and support each other radically, because we know whatever we do, we actually have at heart to be in ethics, to be in I'm good, like it's maybe intense, but to be in survival, to really be in a cultural and mental mode where we see harmony and we see abundance on the long term in this planet, and collectively, I heard that also recently, like recolonize the imaginary, even in our minds, whatever it takes. And that's a really interesting parenthesis, recolonize our imaginaries. I've got fascinated lately by ecotopias literature, and it's actually a literature movement starting with Kallenbach in 1975 in the States, writing Ecotopia. I strongly recommend it. This guy in 75, he had seen so many things, and I got interested into it because I realized dystopian narratives are so present. They're all over the place. We're talking about end of the world this way, that way, everywhere, zombies, explosion, or extra technological and extra tyrannical future. It's obvious. It's all over the place. But where are the ecotopias where we see a human world of full abundance, of equality, justice, of us, literally having a herd of 40 animals and walking freely around the earth and supporting each other, they are there, and they're beautiful. I could give many more examples. So this was just for the parenthesis, to say, whatever the process, what matters are the actions, and it doesn't have to be all at once. As you said, it's little by little. Every action is a great success. Every little change that we can make, when we are privileged. When we are privileged. And I'm sure you all know what it means. Every change we can make, just realizing how every day we spend money, as you say, we vote with our money. Where do we vote every day? How does it work? You know, how do we, every little step matters, and it's about acting and acting now. We don't need to think about it anymore. We understood, we know, scientists have been on top of it, politicians that are honest have been on top of it, you know, institutions all over the place have been on top of it. Now it's time to act. And that's why, for me, Cacao Source was my way, as I realized, well, action in this world is a lot organized around enterprises, isn't it? You know, a lot of the energy that is us humans, we're like very agitated around this economical world nowadays, around enterprise world. So social enterprise for me became a great modality of action. And yeah, that's a lot how Cacao Source was created, with this I don't want to say dream, with this reality, with this vision, the manifestation of social economy. Say like, hey, why enterprises nowadays are tool of parasital energy? Why should it be a thing where you have a startup and then extremely rich people invest capital to help the startup reach a globalized industrial super intense market, so that you get your little $1 million cookie and then you're out, you know? Like, why is that the goal? Why are enterprises made for investors to triple, quadruple, quintuple, multiply by 10, by 100 the investment? This makes no sense. This is completely out of this world, you know? We're like flying into it's, you know, it's Star Wars, where it's not real and it can't go on. And yet it is one of the main structures of our world right now. It's enterprises that are extracting massive amount of energy to send it to the pockets, to the extremely insane lifestyle of an extreme minority. And almost all big enterprises work like this right now. That's why social enterprises are such an interesting alternative. And I say social enterprises, but for me, it is part of a cloud of different projects, eco-villages, artisan economy that is rooted on the idea that you don't have to extract value so much. You can re-inject it. You know, you can take exactly what you need and no more, and actually you're going to be happier because humble wisdom, you know, and you re-inject it. So this was one of the main reasons why we created Cacao. So I think this was part of your question, how Cacao Source started.
Thank you. Because this is, I see you having, I'm assuming, some cacao. Cheers. I've just finished mine off here. The idea with the social enterprise, but how you explained it as well. I think for me, it comes back to our intention, which we have to first consider. So sure, action will eventually happen, but we do need to have this piece of just considering and having the conversations with ourselves, with others, i.e. what we are doing here. And just to think about, where can there be the benefit for not just me, but for as many people involved in this process as possible, whatever I'm supporting. In this case, you know, choosing ceremonial cacao that is based in more of ethical sourcing, and it just has a little bit better integrity to it than buying something off the supermarket shelf where we don't know where it comes from. So just giving an example back to cacao now. And how many people are benefiting from that, as opposed to the opposite, where I'm the only one benefiting, and maybe the person who is the top of the food chain of that enterprise or that.
And am I really benefiting? Am I really benefiting?
Well,
considering the consequences of maybe this power of buying, you know, this economy of extractivism. Maybe I'm not that much benefiting on the, you know, on the overall.
I think what you're referring to here is maybe the short term. We might think that we're benefiting, but it's the long term, and that's what we're seeing now. You know, the actual impact long term on the climate, on people as well, and how many people, there's just such an inequality of how many people just don't have enough to feed their families. which is bizarre when there are others out there that just have so much. So, you know, that age-old saying of there's enough to go around, it just needs to be distributed better, and it's our systems that aren't supporting that. So how do we then, as consumers, make better choices? And it does start, I think, with some, you know, just mental thinking around it, and maybe some reframing and some inner work. And then, like you say, to actually take action. And however you can in the choices that you make, whatever you are buying, have conversations with people, try and just like broaden the perspective that we might have on one way only, because there's many ways, and we can change. That's the beauty of being a human. We can change.
Yeah.
It might be uncomfortable.
There are simple
might
tools.
Be a bit work. Simple, yeah.
There are amazing tools, and they are out there. There are thousands and thousands of people that are dedicating their life and their vision and their mind and their soul to the alternative.
Yeah.
There are 100,000 of people that were already completely deep in the alternative, but isolated. Here in South America and Central America, we can see it. We see voices emerging from the forest that have such delicious messages to deliver. You know, we're cacao, so I want to use this word delicious all over the place. Delicious voices of wisdom that tell me, like, stop the rat race, that tell me, like, stop comparing yourself, stop, you know, just with simple tools, there can be a shift, and you can find harmony with your inner ethos. You can stop lying to yourself, or have to close your eyes and deny, or have to, like, you know, don't see realities. No, they can be integrated. Like, the tools are out there, and they're really accessible. And it's, you know, methodology. Methodology is an amazing aspect of philosophy. It's okay, starting with the beginning and with simple, essential considerations, and then sticking to them, we can change easily. You know, and I think in these questions, it's about shifting our perspectives smoothly. You know, not stop the flow of conditioning. So maybe less TV, or choosing what we absorb with our subconscious, choosing our imaginary, choosing what we dream of. Do we want a lot of war movies? Do we want a lot of suffering movies? Even if they're cool sometimes, or do we want to bring in also a little bit of utopian, or not even utopian, of, like, as you mentioned, humanist ideas? You know, do we want to plug in the collective mind of humanism, of caring about each other, of wanting collective good versus wanting my own good, or having this predatory mind? Already starting with shifting this essential stuff probably is going to help, you know, or like asking ourselves, who am I truly? You know, am I a predator? Okay, what kind of predator do I want to be? Do I really want to be it? You know, or do I want to just use this aspect of myself for certain moments, and then be this other aspect of myself in other moments? We're such multifaceted beings as humans, and essential tools, and then of course practical tools, as you say, where the money goes, and how do we get the info, and then questioning everything, every object of the everyday life. Okay, I'm gonna question, and not necessarily trust on the first word what everybody says, because there are a lot of interests, and do, you know, enjoy the art of research, so that I can get discernment, you know, so that I can bring in. Stop calling.
I love someone calling you again. I love how
Come on,
I love how you
friends.
say the art of research. Okay, while you deal with your incoming call, I'm just gonna pipe in here and say I love that, the art of research, because it is around discernment. That's a big word that comes up when we're talking about choices, and you know, voting with our money, rather going for ceremonial cacao, but not just because the label is slapped on there, because there's also a lot of charlatans nowadays in the cacao space or ceremonial space, but actually to do our research and find transparency and discern for ourselves, is that actually ceremonial cacao, or is that just another marketing ploy? But okay, that's a little bit of a side branch. I just want to bring a word in here, as you were speaking about, you know, how to change, and the word that came to me was community. And it might mean that we have to find another tribe, which is also, can be exciting and fun and adventurous. But just to reach out to people that are going to be thinking along the same lines as us and not necessarily staying in the same group of people, because that's keeping that pool too small. Maybe everybody was from a previous mindset that you've been operating within. So the worldview is, of course, we've got to support big industries, and we've got to get like everything as cheap as possible, and all of that. So it might be branching out and starting to find your tribe and your community, because making these changes within the right community is a lot easier, because you're going to have that support. Someone's going to back you up and go, oh, well done, you put value to that. That's in alignment with this kind of social change that we want to start to see. And it's going to be easier to affirm for yourself that these internal shifts are actually working and they're in the right alignment and integrity. Again, the word integrity. But yeah, community. And I think that's why I really appreciate having these chats, Jojo. It's because here we are linking both our communities in from our respective cacao spaces. And those who resonate, those who don't. But for what it's worth, this is one way of us taking action personally, start these conversations. We have these platforms available to us. So I want to encourage anybody else who's feeling inspired to use their platforms, whatever it is, for conversations. Do it. Don't question if people will like it or not. Just speak from your heart. Speak your opinion. Own it. And those who resonate will resonate, and the rest can just leave it. But it is important that we start to, I think, take a stand. Just have an opinion. Not just go, oh, yeah, yes. I'll just sit back and not do anything and be a bit apathetic, because the world needs action now, like you say.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned this topic of community. For me, it's been a challenging topic. I'm a full-time immigrant for the last 8 to 9 years. So I'm far away from my country of origin, and it's bringing an emotional context that's been maybe one of the biggest challenges in my life, really, really impacting in such a way that I miss so much my family and friends from France that I have a hard time calling them, because it's gonna, affect me enormously throughout my day. I'm gonna have like waves of nostalgia and stuff, and I love them. And at the same time, I see and I agree with, I've seen this topic of like, sometimes you have to allow yourself to connect to different kinds of people and be open-minded to new types of communities if you need to evolve and you feel limited from your community where you come from, right? And I feel like both perspectives are important. That it's so important also to stay as much connected to. And I'm a terrible example of this. I'm really far from where I'm come from, and but I try. I'm still very much in touch with my best friends. We don't speak oftentimes, but it's so precious, such precious connections. And I'm saying all this because we can't abandon each other, and maybe our connections, our most important people in our community that have the most different opinions, maybe they're going to be the best actually debates and best mirror.
For sure.
And so they're also precious in a way. So it's the art of witnessing the influence others have on us and the influence we have on others. And in there, weaving, if we want, right? Weaving potentially some love and some care in a way that we think is coherent with who we are. And definitely some of what's going on in the ceremonial cacao world is about this. And it has been an amazing natural essence. I don't even want to say tool. It's been a spirit, an essence, a plan, a presence that brings connection. And I want to see both connection with, that family member that has such crazy different opinions from the 19th century, maybe, that happens sometimes, but you still love them and you still want to have fun, and there are ways, there are allies that still allow us to connect, even if we're crazy animals as humans and we go all over the place. We can gather, and it's good to be loyal. I feel like I want to stand for loyalty together with open-mindedness. So yes, go explore new communities, but then come back Yeah, come back to the roots and bring the tools. I personally experienced a beautiful time with my family with cacao, and it was beyond anything I could have imagined before. And I'm still digesting what happened. And it was with cacao, and it was with circling and processing and sharing our heart despite our differences.
I'm gonna use the opportunity also just to share from my side. I know this idea of community has also been an interesting one. My personal journey working with cacao actually allowed me to really just start to honor more of my true essence that was in alignment with my heart. And there were some people that just are not they're not really part of my life anymore because I changed. They didn't change, but I changed. So we just grew apart, and some became stronger in the mirroring of, I'm allowed myself to be more of me. And so that kind of almost indirectly gave them permission to be more of them. And we managed to share a parallel journey. And then also just connecting then with other like-minded people in this kind of new space that, when I was shifting into more of this conscious way of my heart, met other people. And I think no matter what our background is and our location, geographical location and where we've lived, there is something that if we're online and we are finding more people to connect with online, that's this whole new community, and it's really fascinating. I find it an adventure, just how so many people that don't know each other at all can come together. And okay, sure, you and me have now met in person, but we could very easily be sitting here having this conversation, and we don't even know, where we live or what our family context is or anything like that. And I think that's the beauty of, again, our timeline nowadays. We have these tools that can allow us to connect into that essence and find that more of that global
straight
community.
To the soul family. Yeah,
exactly, the soul family. And with my actual blood family, it is a bit of a different space that I work in now compared to a little bit more of a traditional and conservative approach. And when I've sat with cacao with my blood family, I've just adjusted, how I've bridged the information into them. But it's also been profound and beautiful to be able to be in that space, for them to see me in my power, for me to receive them for who they truly are. And all of this just by being open and being in compassion and understanding. So I really just think more and more and more, the medicine of cacao, the spirit, what she stands for, it's just what the world needs now. And it's beautiful how it can link into our origins as humans and our personal story, but then also this kind of new space of the global community online. It's really cool, really cool nowadays where we live and what's happening in the world. Yeah.
How did you create Cape Cacao?
Oh, so Cape Cacao is just a lovely organic kind of growing from working in ceremony, which I had done for some time before Cape Cacao, and then I started working with chocolate on the side and making artisanal chocolate and sharing workshops with other people of how to make chocolate. Just from, I used to say my tagline still, because I still offer that, is you can make healthy chocolate with only 3 ingredients, and it was the organic cacao butter, paste, and coconut blossom nectar. Yeah, it's the best. And just teaching people how it can be healthy and all of that. And then the educational component, just on the physical benefits of working with cacao. And so my interest just started developing. At that time, I actually was working in the wellness industry. I had studios with yoga, Pilates, and I was doing a lot of like specialized workshops with, movement health and that kind of thing. And then COVID happened. And already Cape Cacao had started blooming because I was holding ceremonies then with cacao as well in nature. So the ceremonies previously were always just nature ceremonies. So it was like kind of very natural fit, just bringing cacao into already honoring the elements and working with Mother Nature in Mother Nature. But then through COVID, there was just more and more interest in the work with cacao. And everything that I was doing previously just slowly had less and less interest from the outside world. And there was more and more interest from the outside world working with cacao, and it was the right time, obviously. You know, I think so many people have a similar story of it was the right time for us to go inwards and go, is my life working at the current trajectory? Do I want to see myself in the same position that I'm in now? And so there was a lot of this deeper work that people were wanting to go through, and working through the heart space was a beautiful way of doing that. So there was just a lot of interest in working with cacao and doing the introspective work, and that's kind of how Cape Cacao started, very naturally, just because it was something that worked for me in my life. I had a little bit of some deep healing journeys happen, and some challenging changes, and I just started offering what I knew. And then I did lots of research, and then I offered and I shared, and through my experience. And yeah, that's how Cape Cacao started. And I eventually got to travel to Bali, and that's where I met the cacao growing communities there, and how they work in a very, very beautiful way with a lot of reverence because of their Hindu culture and their connection to the land, and also working, you know, in a very similar way with the elements and Mother Nature and the cycles. And so I just started bringing the cacao in from Bali, and eventually there was just the one piece missing of the original origins, and the wisdom keepers, you know, because that's only, as you know, that's only in Mesoamerica, that ancient cultural working and understanding of cacao. So that's when I came to travel to Guatemala recently. Yeah. So.
Yes, this where you said this interest, you know, recognizing, discerning the interest in other and collective, and how it can resonate with us, can be a great tool to know. One of the great tools to know, okay, what do I want to? Where am I guided to? What could be of something I can do?
Yeah.
And I got to a place where I completely surrender to my esoteric and surrendering to the mystery self. That for me, it's like cacao is calling. Cacao is calling. The ancestors are calling here. That's where I landed in myself with this, and my most authentic.
Yeah.
Even if I come from a very rational point of mind, where like 10 years ago it was impossible for me to think like this, but I believe there's a calling. There's like an awakening, and a lot of people are called. And I'm saying this because I can relate completely with the story of creation of Cape Cacao. You were asking me a little bit earlier how Cacao Source emerged, created itself, almost.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can completely relate. Same story. We were, Dorothy, Lawrence, and we were the three founders of Cacao Source. We were coming from wellness, self-development, artistic, you know, free expression, and permaculture, completely permaculture, regenerative farming, from also activism, etc. And cacao arrived in our life as a calling, where we could weave all these different aspects. And I just wanted to add, to answer your question from before and be a bit more grounded into the context and bring some data to the people that are watching us. So yeah, Cacao Source emerged from the how do you say, conclusion, observing the context of ceremonial cacao blooming. It was like 7-8 years ago here in Central America, here in Lake Atitlan, very pole in Central America, very culturally shining place of Central America. When I first arrived here and met Dorothy and Lawrence, it blew our mind, and we were completely life changed and deeply touched by, wow, people are praying with cacao, dancing, breathing, looking into each other, integrating the idea of absorbing food medicine, not only like that is not necessarily psychedelic, and so many amazing aspects, and the wisdom keepers that were coming out of secrecy, and how how life-changing it was for all of us. I was arriving from years of traveling by horse with a circus and living in super isolated regions, and being completely mind blown and touched and humble and nourished from wisdom keepers from different cultures, and the grandma and the grandpa in the very isolated villages, and witnessing these roots, as you were mentioning, these ancient cultural roots that are so beautiful and bring so much wisdom and so much humanness also here in Central America. There's this human dimension. It's like you don't have to get lost in those mind realms or this cosmic divine realms. It's like it's here and now, and it's us, and it's me and you, and it's now, and it's you. You can be here. You can, and all of this was mind blowing. And then we see this global community, people from all over the place that are connecting to these beautiful ancestral roots and weaving it into a lot of different fascinating emerging cultures of being authentic, of daring to be truly authentic and bring change in different ways. And all of this was amazing. But then, especially with Dorothy, she came from ecological studies and biology, and she was working in agroforestry cacao system in Costa Rica. And then, and same for me, I had all this background that allowed me to see, wow, like all this movement doesn't connect with all these farmers all around the country that are in regions that are disconnected from all this, because they are in the palm oil and the sugar regions that are, it's like another world from here at the lake, the Mayan Highlands. It's a really other world. It's another country, another dimension. Not the same level of misery, not the same clothes, not the same languages, not the same mentalities, not the same social level, etc. And I had been really impacted by this world, the being out there in the, I want to call them the peripheries, the places where tourists don't go here in Guatemala, where people say it's dangerous, but it's not. It's just super lost. And village life, these places where people live their life, all their life in the village. You don't go, or very, very, very rarely. 1% of the village travel to the city. That's it. You stay your whole life here. And there's such a fascinating, like such a, how can I say, a difference. And for me, it was the contrast of like having the great privilege to sit and live with people that have such a grounded and connected to nature point of view. It was very nourishing. And so yeah, that's where Cacao Source emerged. We're like, okay, we need to bring the idea of sourcing into the world of ceremonial cacao. We tried in many ways, and it didn't work. So then we're like, we're just going to create our own social business and really root the movement. We want to root the movement. There is a context. We can't deny it. There is a very important context of reforestation, agroforestry, polyculture farming, fruit forest. There is a context, there is a need for justice, social justice, just naming the numbers. There is a need to say, yes, the money is important, and let's say it. And this need was burning. I couldn't sleep. We couldn't not do anything. And we were like, let's just do it full on, full commitment. And same, it was during COVID, and very soon, because I feel it's because our heart was pure and we were so passionate. We're like, we knew why we were doing it. And then it was very easy to see how we had the tools, we had the experience, and it's exploded during COVID. We had so much work. We were connected to so many farmers that were so happy to connect, to work with us. And then we were creating 7 women's collectives here in San Marcos while living here, and just this multicultural context is just so nourishing. And yeah, it bloomed beautifully, and it bloomed in potential, in human experiences. And yeah, it's really much how Cacao Source emerged. I could tell you the story of how I sat at one of Dorothy's ceremony, and she was this little blonde American woman from the US shouting to all these white people on the shore of Lake Atitlan. She was shouting, "Can you feel the waters? Can you feel them? The waters? Can you hear nature? She's calling. She's calling you. Can you hear her tell you all the love through this flavor, to this deliciousness? Can you hear the old wise people of these different cultures that are here to deliver you a message of love, of simplicity, of humbleness, of lending. And can you hear them? And it blew, I was like, yes, yes, please. I can hear them. So, yeah, and then there was no limit in our energy. Of course there was, but there was a lot of energy for us to be able to meet. And now it has an impact. I want also, this is the message today, is the impact we have is just so nourishing. Maybe we're broke. Maybe sometimes it's hard to, the social business is not fun every day. Sometimes we get waves of witnessing how, this economy is made to connect success with extreme rich, extreme abundance or extreme accaparation of wealth. And sometimes it's tricky because it's very material, so it's like in your face. But the truth is, almost all of the time, it's just amazing to see that there's respect, that the connection we have with all the team, to see people that didn't have access to basic things like having a roofed kitchen with a fireplace, and that they could build it. People that are adult and they couldn't maybe have their own house yet, and now they're building their own house, and they're sovereign and they develop from this also this way of working with ethics, and then therefore they incorporate the ethics in their life in a different way than if they were under an exploitative system. Also here in the southern economy, we really see the many rippling effect of an exploitative system. It's not only misery on a daily basis throughout what you eat or where you live, etc. It's also how you think and how you feel and how then you enjoy things or not, and so all these rippling effects are so rich. They're so rich. They make me feel rich, and just wanted to send this message of gratitude, and that when we do the right things, even if we are poor, we're rich.
We're rich. Exactly. It's that spirit.
Even if we're poor in money, we're rich in love.
Exactly. And soul wealth. Let's not underestimate how much value that is. Oh, Jojo, I think we need to have 2 more of these chats. I'm just noticing we are a bit over our quota of time.
Yeah, next time I want to interview you. Yeah, sure.
I think our follow-up definitely needs to be we've chatted a lot about philosophy and mindset, and this is it gives a wonderful context because it's important that we have this piece continually churning in our minds, but then also how to action this in the practical, because I know a lot of people are kind of maybe thinking now, well, what is ceremonial cacao? I don't even know what that is, and here you guys are rambling off on the philosophy of this and that, and so I think next time we go into let's go into those kind of practicalities.
That was the topic.
Yeah, I know. I'm just looking at my list here. We have all these kind of things to chat about, and we haven't touched on one of them. But I think this is such a great context for future chats. And thank you for your energy and just your outlook, and how much work you've actually done on yourself as a human. I mean, I don't know how you were a few years ago, but just the fact that you said, even 10 years ago, to say, oh, this is a calling, I can totally relate. If I think back to not even 10 years, maybe 10 years ago, for me to say this is a calling, it would have sounded quite strange and not really authentic. But now, since cacao coming into my life and really connecting into the spirit, and through the birth of Cape Cacao together, it's such a calling. And I love how you say, if your heart is pure and you are open to the journey, and just keep monitoring the ego, making it a decision with a team of spirit rather than just me as the human being doing everything, then you'll be guided. You'll have the energy, you'll have the means, you'll have everything you need provided when you need it. And I really am a firm believer in that. So I just want to acknowledge that I see that with you and the others, the listen to me, Cape Cacao, the Cacao Source team. And there's such a beautiful mirror, because as you speak as well, I kind of nod. I've got a big smile on my face going, yeah, so similar. Our journeys are so similar. And I'm sure many people have a similar story. So hopefully this inspires them to also just reflect on the privilege and the journey that they've had in this space.
There is a global and multicultural movement of similar stories. There is a cacao family emerging, and it's beautiful. It's articulated, and I see you, Fran. Also, you have so much to share. You have so much wisdom to share, and so articulated, and your experience is very nourishing. And since I've met you and sat with you, I know that I would be so happy to sit in your spaces and receive from you. And thank you so much for bringing your energy and bringing your intentions into connecting with us and everything that you do. It's been really inspiring. I'm a bit sad we don't talk about ceremonial cacao. Let's keep it for next time, but maybe let's do a suspense thing, like a cliffhanger. There are, because I just want to mention the different topics that are woven into this question of what is ceremonial cacao. And I hope it can interest some people, maybe. And definitely we have to talk about it next time, because this is at least 41 hour conversation just on these topics. They're huge. I wanted to say, from my experience, from like 8 years of being deep into cacao ceremony scene, I can see there is a parallel of different phenomenon happening simultaneously and feeding each other's. And they are very different. And I think.
Oh, Jojo, just a sec. Your sound. Oh, you're back.
They know I'm on a live.
Oh, they're calling you again. Talk about a cliffhanger. You didn't even finish what you were saying. The suspense. Okay.
Come on, friends. Remember what we said? Hey, there's going to be a direct, finally. So,
going more to straight to the point, there is a parallel different phenomenon. In one hand, you have Mayan wisdom that is shining with wisdom. There are actors, there are wisdom keepers from different nations, different cultures that are, I think, I witness having more and more impact and more reception in their own communities and globally. And some say there is and I believe I can witness it, I believe in it, there's a re-emergence of Mayan wisdom. It's been very strong in some places, it's been very alive. It's important to mention it. Some say, Mayans disappeared. No, Mayans have been here, and they've been, the Ixil nation, for example, have been showing incredible strategies of preservation of their culture and resistance that are extremely interesting and extremely specific. So, this is the root. The Mayan world is fascinating, and there's so much wisdom in a way that I can't even talk about it. I'm a baby. I feel like a baby. And I think this is the root of the movement. And in parallel to this, there is a multicultural, multifaceted movement of art and culture and personal development and wellness and spirituality that is completely linked, and it's different. And it's it's completely fascinating to me. It's so beautiful. It has so much grace. It has so many intricacies. Has so many absolutely inspiring and exceptional human beings from all over the place. In different countries of Asia. You're in South Africa, in Europe, in North America, even also in Africa or South America. Amazing actors are tapping into this now that we are in, that is fascinating and very multicultural and multifaceted, and that are bringing connectivity connectivity, connection, community connection that are bringing different ways to connect with our spirituality, and that are bringing ways to connect with the Mayan roots, Mayan wisdom, right? And then on the other side, and I think it's been very important for us as Cacao Source, it's been one of our main focuses to always mention and make present another parallel phenomenon. That is the one of the chocolate economy. That is the one of the cacao farming. That is the one of cacao in agroforestry. Who is cacao in the movement of agroforestry? Cacao is a very specific tree. It's very symbiotic. It comes from an amazing climate, tropical rainforest. That means a lot nowadays. It means a lot in terms of biodiversity because it's one of the most diverse, the most rich, the most abundant ecosystem, has huge impact, you know, when you shave it or not. This is also very much part of the movement. And we can't, you know, detract. Like, I've been hearing voices that are judging ceremonial movement in a way that is so funny. It almost shows, they reflect how actually those parallel phenomenons are supporting each other so much. We're part of the same movement. It just has different aspects. And always people will try to put them in competition or in confrontation. But the truth is, whether you ask the wisdom keepers, whether you ask the permaculturists, whether you ask ceremonialists from all over the world, the truth is we are in support, we are in care, we need each other. We need it. We are together in this beautiful crazy boat of ceremonial cacao, and it has so much potential.
100%.
It just has shown the tip of its nose of its potential. And
100%.
I just want to say that because sometimes there are very loud voices that will portray
only one
a
side.
context of confrontation. And it's true, of course, there are deep scars in our world, in here in Central America, in our growing cultures and economies. They are extremely painful and horrible scars. And this is why we need to nourish what heals them, right? And being careful with the judgment, right? I think you mentioned it also in our moment we're talking about community.
Compassion
right now is a great way to bring compassion and fluidity and be like, it's okay, it's all right.
For sure. Because there's a lot of history, there's a lot of context that needs to be considered, and I think to come into conversation with all the different parties and views on this, so not just to take one angle, but to look at all the different angles. So I think the next conversation,
and there's a lot of abuse. It's not only history. Nowadays, there's still a lot of abuse, and it also exists in the ceremonial cacao world. There are opportunists, there's money to be made, so of course there's abuse. And it doesn't have, the abuse doesn't have a race, doesn't have a color, it's everywhere. As humans, we are amazing in diversity, and it's about modalities of action, it's about transparency, it's about, impact or not.
Cool. Well, Jojo, I'm going to say that our next conversation definitely needs to kick off with the bridging of all of these different viewpoints of what is ceremonial cacao, which was kind of going to be what this conversation was about. But we can see this conversation as the context to the next one. So my final question is just going to be in closing today's session. If let's pretend now between this shared Instagram platform that this is the world stage and everybody is listening. Every human being is listening now. What would your message be to them?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big audience. No pressure.
That's a huge question. Love is always available and a great essence.
I put you on the spot there. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Plus, you vote with your money. Plus, responsibility is sexy. Responsibility is sexy.
Responsibility is sexy. You vote with your money, and love is everywhere. Nice. Boom.
Oh, and that was
Jojo
the other
proposal.
cliffhanger
Yeah.
I wanted to bring in for next conversation. Also, the question of what is ceremonial cacao was a great opportunity for us as a social business to establish criteria, because there are no central authority right now defining what is ceremonial cacao. There are voices from different wisdom keepers emerging that define very interesting aspects, facts, you know, how you relate with the forest, etc., how you relate with the spirituality of and the food, the energy of the impact of each state of processing food, etc. But also as businesses, as entrepreneurs, as people that we do things, we can define criterias, and there for us it was a daring. Yes, we're going to be spiritual. Yes, we're going to be emotional. Yes, we're going to be truthful. Yes, we're going to dare. We're not going to listen to all these voices that tell us that it's a competitive economy, you have to do this, this and that, you have to be exploitative, you have to lie. No. And we established very clear criteria also, like we brought structure, we brought this grounding, this discipline of like, for us, what is ceremonial cacao? And we came out with 5 criteria, and they're on our website. And on the next video, I will tell you, we will talk about these very interesting 5 criteria.
Well, that is definitely a nice teaser for next time. Lovely cliffhanger there. All right. So I look forward to the next one. We'll let everybody know when that's going to be.
Too.
Thank you, everyone who joined in live. If you have any questions or comments when this is recorded or put on our pages, then please put your comments there, any questions, and then we'll address them in the next video or even in a reply on our feed. So thank you so much, Jojo. Enjoy the rest of the day
Thank
there.
you, Fran.
And please have a swim in the lake for me. I really miss that space.
This is the next step of my day. Yeah. Swim in the lake, and then we have the market at our little shop and office.
Beautiful, beautiful. Enjoy. And we'll chat soon, brother. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Fran, for inviting me and working with us and supporting good vibes in the cacao forests.
Love that. Love that. Much love.
I appreciate you. Much love.
Bye.
Thank you, Fran.
And thank you, everybody. Bye.